It's really great to have you here. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you so much, Susan. I'm so excited to be talking to you today.
Now, I've already given you a little introduction beforehand so people know who you are, but why don't you just reintroduce yourself, tell everyone who you are, what you do, and let's get into Cincinnati.
Fantastic. Okay, so I am Maija Zummo, and I have the longest job title ever. I am the Senior Communications Manager for Domestic and International Communications for the Cincy Region.
And well, tell people what Cincy is.
Yes. So Cincy is a fun abbreviation for Cincinnati. Cincinnati is a city in Ohio that has a lot of N's and a lot of C's in the spelling. People never know how to spell it, so locals call it Cincy, kind of like Philadelphia's Philly. And when we talk about the Cincy region from a tourism perspective, we're referring to both Cincinnati, Ohio, and Northern Kentucky. So when you live here, it's a 2-for-1 kind of state. We've got Kentucky and Ohio separated by a few bridges, and it's like one big city together.
Yes, and luckily enough, I've at least driven through, and
Yeah.
I've been to Northern Kentucky, and it is linked by one really fantastic, well, a lot of bridges, as you said,
Yes.
but one really
The
fantastic bridge.
stunning Roebling Suspension Bridge, which is a bright blue suspension bridge that connects Covington, Kentucky with Cincinnati, Ohio. Uh, if you've ever seen a photo, it might look familiar because it was the prototype for the Brooklyn Bridge. And it was actually the longest bridge in the world when it opened in 1867.
Oh, that part I didn't know. That is
Yes.
so cool. I know
Mhm.
it does look like a mini Brooklyn Bridge.
Yes, and it's bright blue. It's you can see it in movies sometimes, like the Tom Cruise movie Rain Man. It's in there.
Oh, no way. No
Yep.
way. Now tell us a little, I don't know, a mini history of Cincinnati and then maybe morph that into its relationship with drinking, since we're here to talk about bourbon blending and a whole lot of other things.
Yeah, Cincinnati and Northern Kentucky are drinking cities, so we're in the right place to have that conversation. Um, Cincinnati in the 1800s was a huge destination for German immigrants. So in the 1830s and 40s, about 30% of our population was German immigrants. Our first mayor was German. And along with German immigrants, they brought a couple of things. One of them was sausage, pork history, and also brewing. So Cincinnati was the brewing capital of the world in the 1800s. Residents drank more than 50 gallons of beer a year, which was 2.5 times the national average at that time. So men, women, children, everyone was drinking German brewed beer in Cincinnati. We have a really popular neighborhood today where all of our like hip restaurants and bars are. It's called Over the Rhine. And as you can intuit, it is so named for the German population that lived there. Historically, Cincinnati had a canal running down the middle of it. It was part of the Miami Erie Canal. Goods were traded down that. And the way the city was set up, there was a downtown and then a German settlement over that canal. So people always joked they were going over the Rhine River into the German area where all the beer gardens were, where there were German language newspapers, where we had all the sausage makers and butchers. So huge, huge German heritage and beer brewing heritage. On the Northern Kentucky side, we are the start of Kentucky. So today, the start of the Kentucky Bourbon Trail. And so on that side, you've got a lot of historic distilleries. So
Wait,
huge, huge alcohol.
all right. Well, before we get to bourbon, let's
Yeah.
just stick with beer for a sec.
Yes.
So when you say it was the beer capital of the country,
Yes.
um, so tell me, like, I know you said how much people drank, which is like incredible, but how many breweries were there? A billion
Those are,
breweries as well, or was this like one brewery cranking out, tons of
we
beer?
had 30 different breweries in Cincinnati. Today, comparatively, we have more than 70. So it is still a huge part of our culture. Um,
That's
we
crazy. You have more than 70 now?
70 local breweries.
Or is any of them one of the original ones? Or they?
So Prohibition really
Yeah.
decimated the brewing industry here, but there is a brewing legacy. Christian Moerlein was one of the German immigrants, Bavarian immigrants who settled here and opened a really popular brewery. And today someone has that label. They've resurrected it. So you can go to the Moerlein Lager House on the Ohio River today and celebrate some of that legacy. The Christian Moorline bottling plant in Over the Rhine is actually now home to a modern brewery called Rheingeist, Ghost of the Rhine, and they play on that historic legacy as well. But so one of the really cool things is we don't have those breweries anymore, but we have the like skeletons of those breweries. So because this was the 1800s, there was no refrigeration. The Germans brought over lager beer. So lager beer needs to be fermented at a very specific temperature, 50 degrees Fahrenheit. So what happened was these brewers would dig tunnels below the city streets, and that's where they're 4 stories below ground, and that's where they would do their lagering. We call them lagering cellars. Prohibition came, they got filled in, some were kept as speakeasies, but the city basically forgot about them. There's no map of them. And so what's happening in that historic Over the Rhine neighborhood that I talked about, people are renovating these beautiful Italianate buildings, and they'll be digging and like doing this work, and something will fall through the floor, and they'll look down and there's a tunnel. So the city is quite literally built on beer in Over the Rhine and downtown because there's these hidden brewing tunnels all underneath. So today what they've done is they've reopened them so you can go on guided tours. Here you can go with a tour guide. They tell you about the German history. They tell you about the brewing heritage. You go down some really steep stairs into some scary spaces. But they also are working, the Brewing Heritage Trail is a local like nonprofit that works to celebrate that brewing history. They are currently at work on an American Museum of Brewing History as well.
Gosh, so much. You know, it's funny when you were talking about prohibition, of course, because usually I write about spirits. I always think of it as spirits, but of course there wasn't any beer. I know this is
Oh, yeah.
obvious, but there wasn't any beer either. And I never think of that, you know?
Well, some of them tried to convert to like soft drink facilities. It didn't, it wasn't the same. And really, Cincinnati also had a big like gangster mobster past with Prohibition. We had one of these iconic, a guy named George Remus, who was like a pharmacist, a distiller, a lawyer. He was kind of a jack of all trades, and he was really big, writing medicinal labels and still keeping alcohol moving through Cincinnati along the Ohio River, which would connect down to New Orleans and everything like that through the Mississippi. So we have a lot of illicit prohibition past and speakeasy past as well.
I love that. Yes, I think when I was in a different city, they had one of the bourbons. So it was in Kentucky. So one of the bourbons was medicinal. I'm
Oh, yeah.
using air quotes for people who can't see me, but I love that idea. Oh, I've got to go in and see my doctor
Yes.
and get my little shot of
2
bourbon.
fingers of bourbon every 3
Right.
hours for whatever's ailing you.
Right. I got to see a man about a dog, right? Now, yes, now let's move. You said a little bit about gangster stuff. And since I've been to Northern Kentucky, I remember taking actually a gangster tour, like a prohibition tour. Now,
Isn't that
tell me,
fascinating?
it was amazing. I loved Covington. I thought it was really
Yeah.
fun. We only spent one night there,
Yeah.
but I learned so much about it. So tell me about the city's kind of relationship with over the Rhine, should I say, across the way with Covington and how it's on links to Cincinnati as well.
So I'm going to tell you something really dorky that I really love. So on the beer tunnel tours that you go on, as I mentioned before, the Germans brought over like pork processing pig. We were a huge pork processing facility in the 1800s. Our nickname is still Porkopolis, which is an unfortunate nickname. But
Especially for vegetarians.
as you can imagine, the waterways of Cincinnati were disgusting. They were like
Oh,
full of pig and all of that stuff.
yeah.
So one of the reasons we drank so much beer and alcohol was because they were using aquifers from the Ohio River, alluvial aquifer, to make the beer. And that was like the only safe thing you could be drinking. So when you go on one of the underground tunnel tours, you can actually see one of the wells that they use to reach the aquifer for the water. And this is so cool to me. New Riff Distilling in Newport, Kentucky is one of our new kind of modern distilleries. They celebrated a decade this past year. They dug underneath the parking lot where they were building the facility, and they found that there was an aquifer right underneath them. It's the same aquifer that people were using in the 1800s to brew beer that this new distillery is using today to make their bourbon. So
That's
it's
incredible.
a literal connection between the two sides and that distilling and brewing history. So not only did we have distilleries back then, and again, George Remus was the big gangster, and he was the sort of inspiration for Jay Gatsby in The Great Gatsby. And parts of northern Kentucky, Newport, Kentucky specifically, was the original Las Vegas. So this was like the den of inequity. This is where the Flamingo got its start. So tons of casinos, brothels, all sorts of bad stuff. It's changed much today. There's a family-friendly like aquarium now on the riverfront, not a brothel. But there's still a lot of interesting history there.
Yeah, I remember. And the Al Capone, there was the Al Capone was down there as
Oh yeah, Frank
well.
Sinatra, Al Capone.
Yeah,
It
Frank
was
Sinatra, you know.
the hotbed of
And no one
that
ever thinks of
activity.
that before, Las Vegas. That's what I blew my mind. I was like, I
Yeah.
cannot believe it because it's
hmm
quite a small town as well.
Yes, and actually they have they talk about how they actually have a Newport high school reunion out in Las Vegas because there's so many residents left from Newport, Kentucky to go move out to Vegas.
Oh my God, that is hysterical. I love it. Now, were they also brewing bourbon at that time that they were making beer too, or really it just
So
took over? Beer just took over.
beer was really like the main thing that Cincinnati was known for. Just
Mm.
even like, again, like I said, beer capital of the world. That's from a newspaper quote from the 1800s. I didn't make that up. Um, it
Right.
wasn't as much.
You
Yeah,
corrected me because I said beer capital of the country,
I
beer
know.
capital of the world. I'm
Yes.
sorry. I correct myself.
And again, we were drinking a lot of that beer ourselves. Like that wasn't really getting exported anywhere. We were all drinking it. Um, so there is a distilling like legacy in Maysville, Kentucky. The Old Pogue Distillery actually has the Kentucky Distillery like 3 designations, so like the third oldest distillery
Mhm.
in Kentucky. So we have that. So there's just like that blend of both sides, just really rooted into the culture here. And it's not about getting drunk. It's just about the way the city was building its economy, the way people were working, just the lifestyle. We actually have America's largest Oktoberfest festival, which just took place last weekend. Almost 1 million people come to that.
Oh my God. That was going to be my next question was, you have all this wonderful legacy. How do you, or, how do you, do, consumers, modern day consumers get to enjoy that? What kind of things do you have? And obviously the Oktoberfest is one of them.
Yes. Oktoberfest. And like I said, we've got every neighborhood in Cincinnati basically has its own brewery. In my neighborhood, we actually had 3 at one point in time.
But with 70,
Yes. Yeah, like
I'm
you can,
sure it's like
every
one on
neighborhood in
every block.
Cincinnati has a brewery and then they're like chili parlor because we're famous for our local chili. So everyone's got a mom and pop chili parlor in their neighborhood and a brewery.
All right.
Um,
Wait, since you made this digression,
yeah.
tell us what is special about the chili.
What isn't special about
Of
Cincinnati style
course.
chili, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
Or should I then let me rephrase this? What is particular about Cincinnati chili?
Cincinnati style chili is kind of a misnomer. The best way to describe it would be like a thin bolognese because we serve it over spaghetti. So the chili is a beef chili, thin, spiced with Mediterranean spices and like hints of cocoa and cinnamon. It's not spicy, it's not sweet, but it's a very interesting flavor.
Mhm.
Put it over spaghetti and then top it with cheddar cheese, like a lot of cheddar cheese. And that is called a 3-way. 1 is spaghetti, 2 is chili, 3 is cheese. 1, 2, 3, 3-way. You can add beans, onions to it to make it a 4 or 5-way. We also serve it over hot dogs. But
Oh,
as I
yum.
mentioned, we have 70 breweries. We've got more than 200. We call them chili parlors. And that's where you go to eat your chili.
Well, okay, I'm not surprised that it's over a hot dog, considering
Yeah.
we're at
Oh, yeah.
Porkopolis, right?
Yes.
Now, just to be devil's advocate here, how did the Italian community feel about you putting it over spaghetti?
Oh my gosh. So, and if you could understand, no offense to our spaghetti, but the spaghetti that comes with a 3-way is the most overcooked, like mushy spaghetti. Like that's the best way you can have it. So it's an atrocity. If an Italian person comes here to eat it, it's an atrocity.
Well, they just
But
have to know it has nothing to do with Italian cuisine. It has to do with
oh,
Cincinnati cuisine. And
yes,
that's
it's
what
a
you're there
comfort
to
food.
experience.
Yes. So
Right.
we've got the chili. We
Okay.
also have another special meat that came from our German heritage called Geta. And that is a pork and oat sausage. And that's like, we love our meat. Everyone eats Geta. Everyone eats chili. And the Geta actually has its own festival. So that's another way we kind of show our German heritage. A lot of festivals here. Every summer we host something called Goethe Fest, Goetta, and every vendor has to have their own version of this like Goethe. So you've got Goethe fudge, Goethe pizza, deep fried Goethe balls. It's really unhinged. It's also home of the world's only Goethe vending machine, and there's a guy that dresses like a sausage you can take pictures with. It's Mr. Goethe.
You
And
know what? I have one thing to say. No wonder you're all so thirsty.
I know there's a Goethe beer. There was a
I
Goethe beer
love it.
that
I
was made.
love it.
Yeah.
Mhm. So, and what are, other than the Oktoberfest and Goethe Fest, which I really have to experience one time in my life, what are some of the other things that you do, kind of like tourist or,
Festivals.
alcohol
Yeah.
festival, all
So
together?
fun
Bourbon beer.
fact, Goethe Fest and Oktoberfest are both celebrating big anniversaries next year. So if you want to come, please come. It's 25th for Goethe Fest, 50th for Oktoberfest. One of the other really unique festivals we have is called Bach Fest. And this is obviously involves beer. This happens in the springtime. It is a celebration of Bach beer. So like, what is Bach beer? Like a thicker kind of like, it means goat in German, but it's like a bready kind of beer. It was brewed by monks for like a breakfast beer.
Okay.
So the festival kicks off with a parade where people are dressed in monk outfits, and there are goats that carry a ceremonial keg of Bachfest beer. And then there's an entire weekend celebration where people are in their authentic German outfits. Everyone's drinking, walking around, and celebrating Bach beer culture here.
You gotta love it.
Yes. And one of the other interesting things, in addition to our local breweries, Sam Adams,
Uh-huh.
Boston Beer Company, actually is from Cincinnati. So Jim Cook,
Nice.
who started Sam Adams, is from Cincinnati. His grandpa worked at a historic Cincinnati brewery, and the beer recipe for Boston Lager is actually a Cincinnati family beer brewing recipe. So one of the cool things you can see, in addition to some of our smaller craft breweries, there's a massive Sam Adams facility in Cincinnati and over the Rhine. And across the street from that, in our local food market, Findlay Market, there is a tap room, a Sam Adams tap room, where the brewers get to experiment with one-offs to see which flavor combos are going to work. So it is the only place where you can try these new Sam Adams beers and experimental beers before they get turned into bottled beers.
That's amazing. Now, how about the bourbon? Since we're going to be talking
Oh yeah,
to Bill
bourbon.
Wenzel about bourbon blending after you. What we've done beer. Now we've had enough of beer. We want to go have some bourbon.
Right. So
What are
you've
some of
done
the
your
other?
drinking on the Cincinnati side. You're going to walk across the Roebling
Okay.
Bridge into Covington, Kentucky. So as soon as you step foot in Kentucky, you are at the start of the Kentucky Bourbon Trail. We are an official gateway to the Kentucky Bourbon Trail, and we have 9 Bourbon Trail distilleries up here now.
Fantastic.
Yes. So one of those is Wenzel. They actually recently opened the distillery portion. They do the blending, and they also are now distilling their own. They are the first distillery in Covington, Kentucky since Prohibition. So that is really exciting, reclaiming that legacy as well.
Yeah, because when I was there, it wasn't open yet. So that's
No.
so
So we
exciting.
just had a ribbon cutting in July, end of July. So it's brand new. So if you're ever in town, you get to go see the distillery itself and then go blend your own bourbon. But so more than, I think, 2.9 million people were on the Kentucky Bourbon Trail last year. And the Northern Kentucky portion of that drives a big amount of tourism because we are home of CVG, the international airport. Cincinnati's airport is in Kentucky, which is one of the other unique things about us. But so really starting that Bourbon Trail experience up here is really fun because we have these kind of quirky, kind of smaller craft operations. So in addition to Wenzel, we've got New Riff, like I mentioned before. That's kind of a flagship. It's been around for 10 years. It's female helmed. It's also located next to America's largest liquor store called the Party Source. The guy who started New Riff had owned Party Source. So it is, I think, like 30,000 square feet of liquor. It's crazy. It's massive. So we have that. We also have a distillery called Second Sight, which was started by 2 guys who were engineers and designers for Cirque du Soleil out in Las Vegas. So they have hand built the distillery themselves. It looks like a fortune teller's den. They've got a fortune telling goldfish. This pot still looks like a Zoltar machine.
I love it. How
It's really
great.
amazing. And because we are sort of this undiscovered part of that bourbon trail, you really get to go up close and personal with these distillers and really get some like one-on-one time with them and to see, the art of distilling firsthand.
Yeah, and I think people are getting more and more and more interested. It's not flagging. It keeps going. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
have gone so much ever since I started my podcast 10 years ago. It's just, especially bourbon, you
Well,
know?
there's so much to learn about bourbon, and there's so many. I mean, it's obviously highly regulated in America as like the national spirit, and it was regulated before anything else in America was. Before the FDA existed, we regulated bourbon first. And so there is just so much nuance within the kind of strict parameters of bourbon, and I think that's really fun. One of the very cool experiences up in northern Kentucky, we have our own sort of passport guided trail called the B line, the bourbon line, and that combines our bourbon trail distilleries along with some bourbon bars and restaurants. All the bars have to have at least 100 bourbons you can try. All the restaurants have to have at least 50 bourbons. Many of them have thousands. One of the most unique ones is Revival Vintage Spirits. This is one of the only places you can really do this. So in 2018, this is a little inside baseball, but in 2018, Kentucky changed the law so that you could buy bottles of alcohol from the public. You could buy bottles of bourbon from the public. So people were then able to buy like Dusties or vintage alcohol from people. Like your grandpa passed away and he's got a basement full of old bourbon that you don't know what to do with. Well, you can sell that to someone now. And at Revival Vintage Spirits, this co-owner, Brad Bonds, his nickname is the Indiana Jones of Vintage Spirits. He is a true character, and he has built this entire like vintage alcohol empire. It's almost like a museum, but it's not, because he wants everyone to be able to have access to this alcohol. So I've been in there before. He's got thousands of bottles that range from, I've seen one that had a prescription on it from Prohibition. I've had alcohol from 1914, like Parisian liqueur, like schnapps from there. And so every time you go in, he's got this ever-changing collection of bottles from like the past 100 years that he's selling, but also there's a tasting lounge that you can go into. And starting at $5, you can go in and try different pours of alcohol from him. And he'll tell you about the history, where he got it, how it plays into not only bourbon heritage. He'll have bottles from, everyone loves Pappy Van Winkle, right? And he'll get bottles from the family's recipe before then, and he'll tell you why it's better and like explain how it all plays in with each other. But there's also like weird tequilas. I've had a weird cinnamon alcohol from the 1990s that's no longer made that he had. So it's a really fun, very unique experience, and the entry point is so affordable. So let's say you're in a bigger city and you want to have a vintage pour of bourbon. Okay, it's maybe $500. In Northern Kentucky, you start at $5.
I love that he has all different kinds and not just bourbon. That's what's
Yes.
fun.
As an American, I was just there. He had Havana Cuban rum, which we don't get to have in America because of the ban. And it was like a pre-ban Cuban rum. And
yeah, someone's grandmother went to Cuba in like 1940s and brought it back. Exactly. How much fun is that? Now, I know that you guys are starting off the 250th anniversary of the United States of America. And I was wondering, because this is going to go out in a few weeks, what does that entail? Because I think that would be fun for people to hear what's happening.
Yes. Okay. So we are kicking off America's 250 in Cincinnati and Northern Kentucky with an event called America's River Roots. So as I mentioned, in the 1800s, we were this beer capital. We were also kind of the farthest west you could go at that point in time. And we were the sixth largest city in America in the 1800s, like bigger than Chicago. Chicago wasn't even on the map yet. And this was because of the Ohio River and the trade from the Ohio River. You could connect St. Louis down to New Orleans through the Ohio and Mississippi rivers, and we were a huge stopping point. So America's 250 here, this America's River Roots, is celebrating the role we played in the expansion and connection between north, south, east, west in America. And we are having riverboats from across the nation descend on Cincinnati. So we've got the Natchez coming up from New Orleans. We've got the Belle of Louisville, the Belle of Memphis. They're all coming in town, and there's going to be riverboats lined up all along the Cincinnati riverfront, and they're giving cruises for 4 days. You can hop on breakfast, lunch, dinner, themed cruises and experience that part of American history. And there's going to be talks about bourbon and beer on there. There's going to be like Dixieland jazz on there. There's also going to be really important conversations. Cincinnati is home to the National Underground Railroad Freedom Center because the Ohio River was that dividing line between North and South. So there's going to be really important cultural heritage programming as well. So yeah, it's going to be 4 days of riverboats, music. The Kentucky side has a bourbon experience. Cincinnati side has a beer experience, and you get to really interact with the current brewers and distillers in the region today and kind of experience both of those through some ticketed events, some free events.
Sounds really exciting.
Yeah.
I wish I could be there. It sounds
Yeah.
Now we have Bill up next. So is there anything else that you want to let everyone know about bourbon, beer, Cincinnati? Anything that we haven't touched on?
I don't think so. I will just like lead up to Bill. I think that Wenzel blending experience is really one of the most fun things you can do in this city. Like getting to hang out with Bill, blending, learning about how to taste the bourbon, how the flavors work together and like customize. It's such a great way to learn about your own palate. And again, we were talking about there's so many things to learn about bourbon. It just seems like such a simple thing. You get so regulated with like the corn, the barrels, all of that. But there's so much nuance within the spirit itself. So it's really fun to learn about yourself through alcohol.
Absolutely. And I can't wait to try it myself. So thank you so much, Maija. This was great. I
Thank
just
you,
learned so
Susan.
much. And I can't wait. Maybe next year you will, in fact, definitely next year you will see me
Yes.
for all those anniversaries.
Yes.
I am going to try and make some because you gave me some delicious Cincinnati chili
Yes.
making kit. So I've
Yes.
got to really boil my spaghetti down and throw that
Yes.
on it and try
Till
it.
it's mushy. It's got to be mushy.
It's got to be mushy. So yes, and everyone, you can probably find those Cincinnati packets or get some recipes out and try it.
Yes.
And then drink some of the beer. So, and bourbon. All right. Thank you so much again. It was great to
Thank
have
you,
you.
Susan.
And
This was
I'll see you in
fantastic.
Cincy.
Yeah. Bye.
Hi, it's really great to have you on the show. I'm so thrilled to be talking about blending, whiskey, all that stuff. I love bourbon. So I did a little intro in the intro, but why don't you tell people about you, who you are, and what you do?
Hey, Susan, thanks for having me on. My name's Bill Whitlow. I'm with Wenzel Distillery. I am the brand ambassador and operator for the distillery. We're a pretty young operation. We just started in 2022, but we have been growing pretty quickly, and we're pretty happy with the accolades and response we've got from everybody.
Yeah.
I've been in the restaurant industry for 25 years, and I've been running bourbon bars for 15, 16 years at this point now.
Fantastic. Tell us a little bit about where you were before Wenzel and why a love of bourbon.
Yeah, so I've been doing, like I said, concentrating in bourbon for over 15 years, and no people have approached me before about moving from the restaurant side to the distillery side for years. But finally, in 2020, the founders of Wenzel, the original couple people, approached me, and I thought it was a perfect time. They wanted to do a small experience here in Covington. Nothing huge, no large aspirations for distribution, countrywide, anything like that. Just a local experience, more of a passion project to do on the side. So that's how we kind of got things going. It was a very slow start because during COVID, it was very hard to get our licenses, get construction done, everything like that. So we didn't actually open up till 2022. But silver lining, the barrels we originally bought, the first stock, just got older. So the bourbon wasn't getting worse. It wasn't going down in value. So it was fun. We opened up in 2022. It was a really cool opening because it was a little bit different than people were experienced with. We're not the normal distillery where you kind of just walk through and see the still and taste the different products. We're not the normal NDP that buys thousands of barrels from one distillery and just releases that until their product is ready. We created an immersive experience that we call our boutique blending experience. And it's
Wait. Before you go into that, we have to go way back. Way back. This is Lush Life. We go way back before we go
Okay, yeah,
forward.
let's do that.
So hold on. You say we. Can you tell me a little bit about maybe before you came on about who we are, what they were thinking, why do this, why in Covington, a little bit about Covington, all that stuff, those good bits.
Absolutely. So Covington's fantastic. If you haven't been to Covington, I moved here over a decade ago. I was supposed to be here for work for 1 year. I've been here for 13 years now, and you can't drag me out of here.
I love it too. I think I've been there. I'm lucky. My first trip to Kentucky, we went to Covington. It's adorable. It's such a cool town.
It's a fantastic city. People don't realize, like, when you fly into Cincinnati, you actually fly into Kentucky. There's just living in Covington, you have all the access to a bigger city, but with a little bit more of a comfortable, close-knit community. It's really cool. And so a lot of people just fall in love with this area, stay in this area. So two guys that happened with, Tony Milburn and Austin Dunbar, they knew they wanted to do a project here in this building because it's an old building. It was built in 1873 by Henry Wenzel, who was doing whiskey here previously back in the 1870s. So it had a really cool story to it. It had been a pickle factory, all kinds of things. So they approached me, and I thought it was a really cool idea. So I thought, nobody had anything lined up. Originally before COVID, they wanted to do a restaurant here. But, so we didn't have any fully fleshed out plans. So I helped them develop what the concept would be, what the blending would be. And of course, our original plans are nothing like what we're doing today because you make the playbook and tear it up for whatever works, So we originally thought we were just going to be making like large batches for private people. And now most of our business is doing this private experiences for people.
Just let me interrupt you for a sec. So the original kind of idea after the restaurant and COVID was to have a bourbon tasting or a bourbon blending experience. That's pretty novel.
Yeah. Like I said, most people start off with a bunch of barrels from like one place. We didn't want to do that. Even our first buy had, I think we bought from 7 different distilleries in 4 different states, if I remember correctly. We didn't want it to be all the same, taste like, we wanted it to be different every time you came, different every time you tasted it. I always joke, big distilleries spend a ton of time and money making sure their product tastes the same every time. We spend a lot of time and money making sure ours never tastes the same twice.
I love it. And how did you decide, out of all of the bourbon and all of the country and all of the world, what places you were going to pick from? Was it like one wheated, one rye, one something else?
The decision wasn't quite as easy as that, just because we were brand new, and you don't really have, when you're brand new, you don't have the opportunity, you don't have all the connections out there. We had a good amount of connections where some of us have already been in the business for a while, so that opened up a few doors, but we really had to really kind of go with what we were able to get through some brokers and through some favors with friends. Luckily, quickly after that, they noticed we were actually doing something, and friends of ours at other distilleries allowed us to buy a few barrels here from there, a few barrels here from there. We only started off, our whole operation started off with less than 30 barrels.
Oh, boy.
Which is obviously not much. Now we have, over 500 barrels. Actually, that's a lie, over 700 barrels in storage now. So we've grown quite a bit. Especially like our biggest leap forward, and we might not jump into this, is when we bought an entire distillery out of Savannah, Georgia, which was our biggest jumping point.
All right, wait, hold on. Before that, now, and in the few bottles that you had, or the few barrels that you had, were you looking for, a certain amount of kind of weeded bourbon, some, rye bourbon, some, barley type, was it to create a whole spectrum?
No, so the way we wanted it to happen is we wanted it to be all traditional. We didn't buy any weeded or anything because the reason for that is you were going to, as a consumer, be coming and blending this yourself. Okay. So all of these barrels were meant to be able to easily interact with each other.
Okay.
Now some still would interact, but distillers for decades had a hard time trying to do 4-grain bourbons. We weren't going to try to have people blending with a wheated bourbon and a traditional bourbon and trying to do what distillers took decades to really kind of match up. So we wanted to start off easy.
You can see I've never blended bourbon before.
No. I mean, most people come in and they don't even realize how difficult it is, or they get a true appreciation for what blending really is, and that distillers don't just make the bourbon; they also take barrels from through their stock that taste different and blend them together in that right proportion.
I know. It is truly an art form. Now, so you had your 30 barrels. You're ready to open. How did did people come, automatically? Did you have a large audience to begin with, or did it take a while for it to get out there and, get people in the door?
We had a pretty good beginning locally. So, of course, there's always bourbon groups all around, and we're members of lots of those, or I am. So a couple of those groups came in and did private blends for their groups. So they were all at the grand opening. We had our founders blend that we did just for the founders and put out in our gift shop in the very beginning. So obviously lots of friends and family and local support. So people, and even, an hour away didn't know who we were. But we quickly were able to kind of push through that because we had a good product. We didn't buy young. We were able to start off with, instead of putting out 4-year, just stuff that tastes like bourbon, we were able to put out stuff that's anywhere from 6 to 8 years because we spent a little extra to make sure we opened up with some quality product.
And, for someone who's never done it before, and I can't wait to do it, what is the process? Take me through kind of if I walked in the door, what would you do with someone like me who's never done it, or a group who's never done it?
Yeah, absolutely. That's what's so fun about it is we call it getting your hands dirty, as opposed to just like taking a tour at a lot of big distilleries is super fun. You learn about their history, but in all, you see a still, you see mash, you see a lot of the same things. We wanted this to be a really interactive portion. So when you come in, we greet you. You sit down. You'll sit down in front of samples from 4 different barrels, as well as all your blending equipment, your graduated cylinder, your dropper, everything else. And we start off by giving you a little history about us. Now, the history about us includes history about the building, about Henry Wenzel, who was doing it here originally, about what we've been through to get the place open, and a little history about Covington and why the bourbon is important in Covington. And then we move into basically how to taste, because a lot of people doing this are brand new or don't have a huge familiarization with how to try bourbon, or they're doing tourism. So we teach you how to taste without blowing your palate out, without stunning anything. And we'll teach you how to taste each of the 4, and not doing a normal tasting where you're trying to figure out notes and everything. Just think parts of what you like, because these are going to be, they're all going to be pieces of a whole. You're going to use these samples to create your perfect bourbon. So you're kind of tasting for what you like, not for the exact notes. So we teach you to do that, give you a little time to enjoy it. Then we come back and we teach you how to blend, how to best, start with this, start with 2, and then kind of add on from there using your favorites, how you can add water to open it up and make it a little more palatable. I always love to say, we make a lot of bad bourbon, you just don't taste it because we only put our best foot forward. So the example is 2 great barrels don't always make a great bourbon, because they could be completely clashing flavors, even though both barrels are delicious. And then a good barrel and a bad barrel don't make a bad bourbon, because sometimes that bad barrel, not necessarily bad, just what you don't like, those flavors may be what that great barrel is missing. It might have a little funk, a little hay, a little, odd flavor that is just with this sweet and, full-bodied bourbon is missing to be unique to you.
And so, in your opinion, and this is not even an answerable question, what makes a good blend?
Well, for me, it's having discernible flavors. Like I said, I've done bourbon for a long time, and at a certain point, in bourbon history in the past couple years, a lot of bourbon just tastes like bourbon. Just a lot of things taste very similar, taste the same, and I like it. Even if it's not the best bourbon I've ever had, I like to be able to remember something about that bourbon. You know, it had these great butterscotch notes. It had these great tobacco notes. It was funky. It was sweet. It was full bodied. Like I want to be able to remember something about it. And that's what I like about being able to do your own blend because I came in here, I wanted to do something sweet with a little spice. So I used this barrel that was really full bodied and sweet, but I had this barrel that was incredibly spicy. It was too spicy for my palate, but I added a little bit in here and it made it perfect.
I love it. So I was really lucky. Someone came to you.
I can
And
see
if
it in
you
the
can see
background
above. Yeah, let me get it. What's super nice, of course, this is for the YouTubers, is so they can see it, is that, of course, it says, well, it doesn't say, of course, but for my friend Susan, which is really nice. Can I tell you some of it and you can tell me a little bit about it, maybe? Can you tell from the, so it was, it tells me the proof and the date.
Yeah, so when you come, the barrels swap out constantly. If you come and then you come a month later, you're probably at least 2 of the 4 barrels are going to be different, and likely all 4. So it's it's different every time. So that's the whole. We
That's
spend a
really
lot of time
great.
and money making sure it never tastes the exact same. It's because the barrels that you have on your plate are different every time.
Oh my God, that means you can come back all the time and be constantly blending.
And people do that a lot in our area. That when they have family visiting, things like that, they can bring them in on a Saturday afternoon, and it's a great time spending. You can sit around for an hour and a half, 2 hours with your family, chatting, blending bourbon, trying them against each other, and it's different when you come.
Of course, of course. Now I'm going to go back a little because I feel like we skipped over so much. Now,
So
tell me about
Henry,
Mr. Wenzel, the history of the place, and also what you mentioned about getting the 700 barrels. Tell me all about that.
yeah. So Henry Wenzel built this building when he was 36, and that was 1873 with his wife Bertha, his 5 kids. They were German immigrants. They had a residence about 2 blocks from here, and then they had a tavern about 2 blocks from here, the opposite way. So in this building, he did a few things. He made mineral water and soda water, of which we have actually procured some of the original glass bottles from
Oh, no way.
150 years ago, which is really cool. And he also blended bourbon and whiskey for his tavern. The first bottled bourbon was 1870, but of course, not everybody kind of went into that process immediately. People were still blending and putting together from barrels to put into their tavern. Now, unfortunately, the way I always say it is Henry liked his job a lot. He passed away 4 years later at the age of 40. He was found jaundiced with a head bleed coming home from the tavern, unfortunately, but that is kind of a truth from that area. So his wife Bertha then made this place her residence. Women in the 1870s were not afforded the same opportunities as men, so she had to kind of pull some strings and figure some things out, and she ended up turning this into a residence, living upstairs, and then she rented it out to a pickle factory, which was a pickle factory for a very long time. And in this area, if you say the pickle factory, people know exactly which building you're talking about.
I love it.
So that's kind of the story how they started in this building, and then there was a lot of history in between that time to when our founder Tony bought this building in 2018, I believe.
Yeah, and it's I love the pickle bit because it harks back also to the Germans who lived there, who settled.
Yeah, it was really cool. This is the first building he said he ever bought where he didn't realize there wasn't running water coming into the building. He had water. I guess they were running this pickle factory without, they didn't need that. They had waste lines, but no incoming water.
Oh my goodness. I know that does sound crazy. Now tell me about the 700 barrels you acquired.
Yeah. So right after we opened, we started doing our little thing. It was the founders, were kind of off, because they had their own businesses. This was a passion project. So it was me and one other guy, Griffin, running the whole thing. So But a few months after we opened, another friend sent me this advertisement about a distillery for sale in Savannah, Georgia. It was almost like a glorified Craigslist ad. And we were like, all right, let's see what's going on. It's an entire distillery with their barrels, so we did a little research, and turns out it wasn't this little rinky-dink operation. It actually, they had won some gold medals and things like that. But their area became very valuable to one of the local schools. So they had sold the building, and they said the profit they made on the building was their expected profit for like 10 years on the distillery, plus they got to liquidate. So obviously,
Makes sense.
It made sense for them. Obviously, it wasn't great for the neighborhood, but whatever. So we went down, checked it out. We tasted a lot of their different barrels, checked out their equipment, did our due diligence, and loved it. So we had a very short timeline because apparently they'd had a deal before and it fell through. So we only had like a month before they absolutely had to be out of the building before the owners were going to take it over and start throwing everything in the street. So we made a deal. Went back down there, decommissioned everything, sent 14 semis. 14 semis worth of equipment and barrels from Savannah, Georgia up to Kentucky. And that gave, and they had barrels from different places too. So it gave us a very wide array of stock to choose from, as well as bringing in some of their wheated, which we used their wheated, but blended it ourselves from the different barrels, and that's what we won gold at San Francisco. We used some of the sherry they started with, and we just won best sherry finished in the world, blending some of that together. So it was a really cool pickup we got to do from them.
How exciting, number one, for you to be working, for someone who loves bourbon, to be working on creating it yourself.
Yes.
Have you already decided on the mash bill, and do you know what you're going to do with it and want to share?
So we brought on a head distiller from one of the local distilleries, someone we've known for a while. He's fantastic. He's very talented. And we're going to be starting off with like 3 mash bills, a wheated, a traditional, and a rye, as many would. The wheated, we're going to be following following the path from the distillery that we took over in Savannah, Georgia, Ghost Coast, because we love it. It's been our most popular, and we want to, try to continue that kind of what it kind of helped us get the ball rolling, and we want to keep that ball rolling with it.
I love that. That is a great idea too. I'm sure the guys that who had to sell up or who wanted to sell up, must be really pleased about that as well.
It's very cool, and actually, it's a very small world. The distiller from that distillery now works at a distillery, so that was 10 hours away. He now works at a distillery 2 hours away from us. He's been here to visit. We tasted some barrels with him, and one of his old distillers just started working with us last week.
See, it's karma.
It's all small, very small world. I mean, we're super excited as we're getting to grow with Covington. I always tell people, Kentucky has over 100 distilleries, but we're the first one in Covington since Prohibition, and Covington's the 5th largest city in Kentucky. So it didn't really make sense to us why there wouldn't be a distillery here. And there's a lot of growth going on here, especially being tangential to Cincinnati. So it allows us to all grow with that together. So we're just super excited to have the new distillery open, the new event space, the new bar. And it's going to be a really, really cool kind of symbiosis with the area. One really exciting thing for us is that we've already been approved. We're going to be on the Kentucky Bourbon Trail. So as soon as we can open the doors there, then they'll also add us on the Kentucky Bourbon Trail, and we'll be on there alongside, other friends as well as industry giants in Kentucky.
Oh, that's great news. That's great news. So again, thank you so much for being here, and it was great to hear everything about Wenzel.
No, thanks for having me.